Hello and welcome to the Entrant. The topic for today's discussion is fundamental rights, their need, origin, and development. This topic holds great importance when it comes to questions asked in competitive exams. Before delving into the subject matter, let us first understand what are fundamental rights. Article 12 to 35 of the Indian Constitution deals with fundamental rights. These human rights are conferred upon the citizens of India, for the Constitution tells them that these rights are inviolable. That means they cannot be violated or infringed upon. The writers of the Constitution regarded democracy of no use if civil liberties like freedom of speech and religion were not recognized and protected by the state. Fundamental rights are those rights which are essential for intellectual, moral, and spiritual development of citizens of India. They are essential for existence and all-round development of individuals. They apply universally to all citizens, irrespective of race, birthplace, religion, caste, sexual orientation, gender, or gender identity. The makers of the Constitution found their inspiration in many sources for the fundamental rights, including England's Bill of Rights, the United States of Bill of Rights, and the France's Declaration of the Rights of the Man. Now let us look at the genesis of fundamental rights in India. Part 3 of the Constitution contains a list of fundamental rights. This Chapter 3 of the Constitution of India has very well been described as the Magna Carta of India. When the Constitution of India was being framed, the background for the incorporation of Bill of Rights was already present. The framers took inspiration from historical examples such as England's Bill of Rights, the United States Bill of Rights, and the France's Declaration of the Rights of Man and Citizens. In 1928, the Nehru Commission, composing of representatives of Indian political parties, proposed constitutional reforms for India, calling for the Dominion status for India and elections under universal suffrage, which would guarantee rights deemed fundamental and representations for religious and ethnic minorities, and also limited the powers of the government. A notable development during that period, having significant effect on the Indian Constitution, took place on 10th of December 1948 when the United Nations General Assembly adopted the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and called upon all member states to adopt these rights in their respective constitutions. The task of developing the constitution for the nation was undertaken by the Constituent Assembly of India. The fundamental rights were included in the first draft constitution in February of 1948 and the second draft constitution in 17th of October 1948 and the third and final draft of the constitution on 26th of November 1949, which was prepared by the drafting committee. This Declaration of Fundamental Rights in the Indian Constitution is the most elaborate and comprehensive yet framed by any state in the world. The need for fundamental rights arises from the principle that they are deemed essential to protect the rights and liberties of the people against the encroachment or exploitation of the power delegated by these people to their government. There are limitations upon all the powers of the government, legislative as well as executive, and they are essential for the preservation of public and private rights. The importance of fundamental rights has been observed in two cases. The first one is Maneka Gandhi versus Union of India. In this historic case, Justice Bhagwati observed that fundamental rights represent the basic values cherished by the people of the country, and they are calculated to protect the dignity of the individual and create conditions in which every human being can develop his personality to the fullest extent. They weave a pattern of guarantee on the basic structure of human rights and impose negative obligations on the state not to encroach on individual liberty in its various dimensions. The second case is that of M. Nagraj versus Union of India. In this recent case, the Supreme Court has said that fundamental rights are not a gift from the state to citizens. Part 3 does not confer fundamental rights but confirms their existence and gives them protection. Individuals possess basic human rights independently of any constitution by the reason of the basic fact that they belong to the human race. These rights are important as they possess intrinsic values. Its purpose is to set aside certain subjects from the area of political controversy and place them beyond the reach of majorities and officials and to establish them as legal principles to be applied by the court. Therefore, the object behind the inclusion of the chapter of fundamental rights in the Indian Constitution is to establish a government of law and not of man, a government system where tyranny of majority does not oppress the minority. In short, the object is to establish the rule of law. Can the fundamental rights be suspended? The fundamental rights are not absolute rights. The Constitution therefore provides for the curtailment or suspension of the fundamental rights. Article 358 provides that the proclamation of emergency is made by the President under Article 352, and the freedoms guaranteed by Article 19 are automatically suspended and would continue to be so for the period of emergency. This removes restrictions on the legislative and executive powers of the state imposed by the Constitution. Any law, executive order made by the state during this period cannot be challenged on the ground that they are inconsistent with the rights guaranteed by Article 19. However, they cease to have effect as soon as the proclamation ceases. Article 358, however, makes it clear that things done or omitted to be done during the emergency cannot be challenged even after the emergency is over. Article 359 further empowers the President to suspend the right to move to any court for the enforcement of rights conferred by Part 3 of the Constitution, except Article 20 or 21 during the continuance of emergency. The order of the President may extend to the whole or any part of the territory of India. The suspension under Article 359 can only be brought about by an order of the President. Lastly, fundamental rights can be classified into 6 groups. The first one is right to equality from Article 14 to 18, which includes equality before law, the prohibition of discrimination on the grounds of religion, race, caste, sexual orientation, gender or gender identity, and or place of birth, equality of opportunity in matters of employment, the abolition of untouchability, and the abolition of titles. The second one is right to freedom from Article 19 to 22, which includes freedom of speech and expression, assembly, association or union or cooperatives, freedom of movement, residence, and right to practice any profession or occupation. The third one is the right against exploitation from Article 23 to 24, which prohibits all forms of forced labor, child labor, and the trafficking of human rights. The fourth one is the right to freedom of religion from Article 25 to 28, which includes freedom of conscience and free profession, practice and propagation of religion, freedom to manage religious affairs, freedom from certain taxes, and freedom from religious instructions in certain educational institutions. The fifth one is cultural and educational rights, which from Article 29 to 30, which preserve the right of any section of citizens to conserve their culture, language, or script, and the right of minorities to establish and administer educational institutions of their choice. The last group is the right to constitutional remedies from Article 32 to 35, which is present for the enforcement of fundamental rights when they are infringed upon. Lastly, I would like to say that the 44th Amendment has abolished the right to property as a fundamental right as guaranteed by Article 19, subsection 1, subclause F, and Article 31 of the Constitution, and hence Article 19, subsection 1, subclause F, and Article 31 has been omitted.